July is a strange time in video games because July, generally speaking, is like the one month where things kind of take a step back, slow down for a moment, but this year they haven't really, for very, very strange reasons. Last week we saw the entire Xbox layoffs and everything going along with that, as well as the movement for stop killing games making a huge stride forward. Even people like the creator of Minecraft and billionaire Notch came forward and said, hey, if purchasing a game isn't owning it, then pirating a game is not stealing it. And oddly, Pirate Software, I don't know whether he agrees or disagrees with anything anymore, but what we do know is that the entire gaming community is very, very angry with him. Now, someone who the gaming community isn't angry with is someone by the name of Taylor Fitz, who made it all the way to the semifinals in Wimbledon simply because someone in League of Legends told him to go touch grass. And I won't lie, July is actually a pretty good time to go touch grass, if you will, or what everyone else who games does, take this time to go back and go through some of those games that you may have forgot about, because this is when the cadence of releases slows down a little bit before it really starts to pick up within August and going into fall. But that doesn't stop gaming news from happening, and that is what this show is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Weekly Reload, your weekly gaming news show that happens every single Sunday. This week, I wanted to start out with something special, and that is Battlefield. Now, this is a weird one. I was going to talk about this last week, but it didn't really fit into the show, so let's bring it all together this week because we have two pieces of news. Number one is Battlefield's estimations for how the game is going to perform. According to some sources, there has already been $400 million put in the development of Battlefield 6, or this new Battlefield game. And with the higher ups projections, they project 100 million people playing this game. Now, the reason for that is because they are releasing, like Call of Duty, a campaign as well as a multiplayer, and then a free-to-play battle royale. And they think that free-to-play battle royale is going to bring the player numbers up to 100 million. Now, this is a pretty ridiculous number because the top-selling Battlefield and top-played Battlefield of all time is Battlefield 1 at 30 million players. So essentially, this game would have to be over 3 times as large as that game, which are honestly some pretty unrealistic numbers. It took Warzone during COVID 18 months for that to actually happen, so I see that as a pretty far cry from what would actually happen with this series. Now, another thing that came out this week is how the class system is going to be working fully for Battlefield, and they are doubling down on what they've already chose, where your class is not going to be locked with what weapons you can use. So you can use any weapons with the recon class, for example, and then the way that they're going to make it feel like a recon class is using a skill, a gadget, and a trait tree, where throughout a match you will earn certain perks, and then your third perk kind of that you will earn almost functions as a kill streak or a score streak from a game like Call of Duty. For example, calling in a UAV, which can all be earned through getting XP in game. So yeah, they've doubled down on what made people quite angry, and clearly what they are going for here is a way to bring in new players to this game, to make it noob friendly, if you will, which is a hard thing to do when you look at Battlefield in comparison to Call of Duty. Generally speaking, it's a much more tactical, down to earth, more militarized based shooter. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but one of my favorite games of all time is actually Fallout 3. And guess what? A Fallout 3 Remastered is 100% in the works. Now, if you don't know what's going on here, what got leaked this week is that multiple Fallout projects are currently being worked on. Now, this one doesn't take a tinfoil hat to figure out. One that we absolutely know is being worked on, it got leaked years ago, is a Fallout 3 Remastered. This is being worked on by Virtuos, the same people that just released Oblivion Remastered. They are working on this, and I would guess this will not come out until probably early 2027. Think February, March 2027. So we're still quite a ways away. We also learned that Fallout 5, the next main game by Bethesda, Todd Howard has an idea for what he wants to do with it. However, it is definitely not in the works, and it's not going to be coming out until after Elder Scrolls 6, which who knows when that one's coming out, and then one other one got leaked. And this is the interesting one, because we know that the next season of the Fallout TV show is going to be centered around New Vegas. Now, there was no news of a New Vegas remastered being in the works. However, after what's going on at Obsidian, which is the studio that originally released Fallout New Vegas, they're pretty much free in the clear after the Outer Worlds 2 comes out. So rumors is that they are going to be switching focus and working on a Fallout New Vegas 2. But again, they would just be starting on this game. So we are still years away from Fallout content, but apparently there's a lot coming. Now, this is super, super weird, because you would think that Bethesda, one of their biggest IPs, of course, being Fallout, as soon as Xbox would have bought them, you'd think they would have put a bunch of people working on that. But apparently, no, that is what is going on now. So yeah, we're still years away from this. Now, speaking of Xbox, Call of Duty. Let's dive into Call of Duty, because quite literally nothing really happened this week. There was no new Black Ops 7 news. There was like a new event put into the game, but as a whole, nothing new happened. However, there was some news regarding Xbox's Game Pass. According to Xbox, Game Pass is now profitable. Now, this was put into question because in putting out these numbers, they didn't include the money that they put into their first-party titles. Now, Call of Duty is a first-party title, and the development of that game costs upwards of $500 million a year. So are they not counting that whatsoever? Well, it did get community noted on Twitter. However, a statement was put out after that and said even with the money that they put into first-party titles, it is still profitable for the first time ever. Now, I would assume that's because with certain titles that they are releasing as day one releases, they are also doing like pay an extra $20 to play 2 days early. Or with Call of Duty, we know that there is oodles and oodles and oodles of microtransactions, which means that game is profitable by itself. Take Game Pass out of that. So those calculations all come into play. But yeah, apparently Game Pass is profitable. How profitable, we don't know as of yet. Now, speaking of being profitable, it seems as though PlayStation is just keeping true with what they are doing. And this week, they released 19 minutes of Ghost of Yotei gameplay. Now, this was really the first gameplay we saw of this game. And lo and behold, it looks good. Is anyone really surprised with this whatsoever? The one thing that this studio does, I think, better than really any other studio out there is when they release their games, they know that part of it is it needs to be a work of art. And that is exactly what they've done here, keeping true to what they did with Ghost of Tsushima. This game just appears to be more of that. Now, here's the question. Are we getting into the territory of Assassin's Creed where it's going to be too much like the first game and people will enjoy it a little bit less simply because they're bored of it? Or is more of the game exactly what people are wanting? This is something we're probably not going to find out until the game comes out. Good thing though, you're not going to have to wait too long. It comes out later this year. Now, speaking of games you're not going to have to wait too long to play, the games that came out this week, we have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, the remake. This game actually got reviewed really well, sitting at around an 81 on OpenCritic. I didn't know how this one was going to be received, but it appears as though, just like the more recent remastered with 1 and 2, people are really enjoying these Tony Hawk games. And throwing the tinfoil hat on, the one thing that I really do have to say is I truly believe that we are getting into an era where we are going to see more and more remastered games simply for the fact that they are easier to make and games are taking longer to create. So in a series like Tony Hawk or Call of Duty or even Fallout, like we've talked about before, it takes years and years, 5+ years to develop a new one of those games. So if they kind of subsidize those games by releasing remastered games, they can do it quicker, use outside studios like Virtuos, for example, and bring more and more of these games to fill the gaps between their big mainline games. I truly believe that we're about to be in an era where every couple months we see a large remaster for old games. Things that I'm looking at are potentially old BioShock games, things along those lines, that I truly believe we are just going to continue to see more and more of. Speaking of seeing more and more of something, censorship. That is a big topic this week with Ready or Not. You see, later this week, I believe on the 15th, Ready or Not, kind of an immediate cult classic game that was released on PC, is getting censored as it comes to console this week. Now, it is coming out on Xbox and PlayStation, and this is a extremely dark game. In fact, I just tried it for the first time this week. Now, it is a really good game, and if you're into kind of SWAT team or a police simulator, this will fit your fancy really, really nicely. But there are certain things as it comes to console that needed to be censored. Certain things with child violence, nudity, things along those lines have been not taken out, but kind of edged back. Now, the only problem with this is Ready or Not was very clearly a game that pushed boundaries. There's a level that takes place in a school. It's called Elephant. If you want to look into it, you can dive into it more. But yeah, it's based off of Columbine. So you can see the kind of direction that they're going. And all of a sudden, as they're coming to console, they have to now take a step back. And people, it didn't really sit well with them. So people immediately felt the backlash as they started downvoting the game on Steam. But as they give us more information, it doesn't seem like they really censored that much. They were just trying to line up with what they needed to actually bring it to certain regions around the world on console. And they did the same with the Steam version as well, which is actually what people got mad at. But honestly, I don't think you should be mad at Void Interactive whatsoever, because I truly believe that they're not the ones at fault here. If they want to put their game out to the masses, these are things that they have to follow. We should be more mad about the Xbox and PlayStation ESRB ratings and things along those lines. Because let's be honest, if a game is rated M and made for adults, an adult can make a decision as to what they want to play or do. So why do we have a board of people making a decision for adults? It's really, really silly if you ask me. Now, what did come out this week is the new Superman movie. I know it's not a video game, but I just had to quickly say this movie is absolutely crushing it. Now people are getting back into superhero movies, and everyone is now wanting a Batman and Superman and maybe even a new Justice League with the current actors, with James Gunn being the director. And for the first time in a while, it seems like superheroes are back. Anyway, back to video games. Coming out this week, even though it is July, it is not completely dead. First of all, we have Destiny: Edge of Fate. This is the expansion for Destiny, which seems to be a little bit more focused on game systems as opposed to new content. I truly believe that Destiny is one of the greatest series made of all time. I really, truly do enjoy Destiny, but these days, I just don't have time to put into this game, because if I did, I would be sitting there for weeks at a time. I just know how Destiny and I work, so I try to stay away from that. But from what I've heard, Destiny fans are really excited about this one. And then the second game coming out this week is Donkey Kong Bananza, of course, coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, Donkey Kong 64 was one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know if this one's going to be a true good follow-up to this one where you can like quite literally destroy everything. But one thing that we do know is pretty much every single time a first-party Nintendo title comes out, it is almost always good. So I would be pretty shocked to see anything other than near perfection with this one as well. So as I mentioned, 100% a slower week for video games. July will kind of continue to be like this until it really starts to pick up at the beginning of August with Gamescom and everything along those lines. August also has many more releases as well, which of course we'll dive into in the future weeks. So if you want to stay up to date on all of your video game content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, hit the like button on this video, and check out all of our other socials down in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.